Hi guys, David here with Fresh Baked, and I've got some updates for you on the construction projects going on around the Disneyland Resort. We're going to start in ToonTown. That is now closed. Closed for probably a year, maybe more. Liz was there to capture some of that last day fun. You can see her video here on Fresh Baked. The walls went up and the land is now locked down. But not before we got a little bit of coverage for you from the construction progress going on, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. The entrance to the attraction is about how we left it, though there has been, progressively more and more steel and scaffolding going up over the past week or two. And you can see over on the left side of the frame, the Mickey and Minnie's show building. That final layer has been applied. We won't, though, be able to see them apply the final color coat because the land is now closed, of course. So, the other day I went to the only place that I could think of where we might get a view of ToonTown. My old stomping grounds on top of the Mickey and Friends parking structure. But then I remembered that they built Galaxy's Edge there, so we can't see any of ToonTown. This is the only view I could find of anything other than, Rise of the Resistance. This is that space between Galaxy's Edge and those backstage buildings. And then that building there is the Runaway Railway show building. And if I'm not mistaken, this red and gray wall, that's the path, the structure, I don't know what you want to call it, a tunnel? It's what connects the entrance to Runaway Railway in ToonTown to the show building backstage. And it looks like it's still under construction. And that's it, guys. That's as much as I could get for you here. Unfortunately, I think this may conclude our ToonTown construction updates. I'm going to take one more look on Harbor Boulevard to see if there's any view at all of ToonTown from there. But based on this footage that I took of Runaway Railway 2 years ago when they were first going vertical, we're not going to be able to see anything there. Nothing more than that giant white building that's there now, and then maybe the top of those ToonTown mountains, which you can kind of see here. So I have a feeling we're going to be blind to whatever's happening to ToonTown for the next year, which really bums me out. So without further ado, let's continue with our show. We'll check in next on our mystery structure in the Stitch parking lot outside the Disneyland Hotel. Since our last update, I've been advised that I misspoke. I didn't realize there's no concrete here, no forms. When I was talking about those in the last update, I was thinking of some work that I saw going on at the Disneyland Hotel DVC Tower construction, where I did see some forms go up. So the concrete and forms suggest something more permanent. I don't think that's what's happening here. This is not a permanent structure. I mean, it may be permanent wherever it winds up, in some degree, but it's certainly not going to be planted here and stay here. So from here, you can kind of get an idea, though, of what the final build is going to look like. Pretty sure that's 4 walls on the top floor, but no 4th wall on the bottom floor on either side of that divide that separates the two. And then no 4th wall on the left side of the top floor either, though it's kind of hard to be sure from this angle. I mentioned the walls and whether or not there's a 4th one because some had suggested this could be a temporary stage for an event coming up at the Disneyland Hotel. Stage wouldn't need a 4th wall. Definite possibility, but I kind of think it's too small for something like that. This is not big enough even for a stage, even for a small stage, I don't think. This feels more like a large kiosk. So I guess stay tuned for more next week and the weeks after that. This is going to, I don't think it's going to take them that long to build this. They've made pretty quick progress here already. So let's go next to check in on Downtown Disney, the AMC Theater. And actually, I just so happened to have been in the Mickey Mouse Penthouse Suite at the Disneyland Hotel and got some pretty good shots of the work being done at the AMC Theater. Now, it actually doesn't look like much is going on from here. Fairly normal. That is, until you realize this building here is just half of the AMC Theater building. That half back there used to look just like the front half, but it is gone now. There you go, this is better. Got a giant, well actually I'm not even sure what that dinosaur-sized machine is. It's not an excavator, is it? Anyway, it's ripping apart the building while that other guy is hosing down the site to keep debris and dust from scattering across all creation. And then here's how things look from behind at the Paradise Pier parking lot. Again, there used to be a big old building there where that blue sky is. And then from downtown Disney, where we can see another giant machine doing work on the AMC Theater building worksite. Friend of the show, Tustin, said this guy is sorting through the wreckage to find material for salvage. Some of the site materials are quite often valuable as scrap. So the building can in fact be recycled somewhat. So this guy is separating, you know, the recyclable steel from just regular garbage, I guess. By the way, I've been told that they're going to change the configuration of these downtown Disney shops somewhat, which you could kind of tell from the concept art originally that they're angled a little differently than how we see them now. But there's more. In our last update, we mentioned the markings on the ground in the Paradise Pier Hotel parking lot. My assumption was that this meant the work on the new building, whatever it is that they wind up doing, would extend out to this point or near to it in the parking lot. Now I'm hearing that while this is correct, it won't be the back side of the building. The retail shops will be facing out in both directions. Retail will face this parking lot, both downtown Disney proper and this direction as well. So I guess they're going to take that, you know, the large footprint of the AMC building and maybe split it into 2 sets of retail shops with, you know, backstage for each of those shops down the middle, I suppose. Or actually, now that I think about it, it could just be one set of shops with entrances on both sides. You see that in those large outlet malls where you have multiple entrances to the big box stores. Stay tuned again to see how that works out here at Downtown Disney. Okay, we're going to wrap with just a couple of updates from inside the park. The canopy, or the tent, or whatever you want to call it, has returned to the Royal Theater at Princess Fantasy Fair. It looks like it's been repainted, made fresh again, looks great. I thought it looked altogether different as well, and it is somewhat, I guess. The spire is the same, but the color scheme has changed a little bit. The top piece is the same pink with red stripes, but where the section below was lavender, it is now a bright blue. And then the pink crown also looks unchanged, though perhaps maybe a little brighter, more saturated. Okay, and then one more stop, and that's in New Orleans Square, where some scaffolding has appeared on the rooftops. I mention it here today because if I'm not mistaken, I think that's where the hidden ship Mast and Sails is, or was. I did a Secrets in History video on this a long time ago, 2013, I think. Stay tuned for the end of this video because I'm going to show you that. Forgive me, though, in advance because it is awful. I had no idea what I was doing back then, but it was a fun video to make. Anyway, Disney put in a ship mast and sails here on the rooftops of some of these New Orleans Square buildings to give the land the appearance that it was on or near an actual ship harbor. That's supposed to be a ship off in the distance in a harbor. And it's a really cool effect. But I'm mentioning it here today because I hadn't even thought about this little Easter egg until it was brought to my attention by a Fresh Baked street teamer. And now I'm wondering if it's even still there. Had they taken it out before this? Because I don't remember seeing it here or noticing it in recent years. Now, it could be that I just didn't notice it. It wasn't in the front of my consciousness. Or did I not notice it or aware of it because they had removed it? I feel like I don't know. I can't tell. So I'd love to hear from anybody who can confirm that it was still there prior to this scaffolding going up. Let us know. And, by the way, while we're at it, if you're in the parks and notice anything else that you think we might be interested in, believe me, we are interested in a lot, join the Fresh Baked Street Team. You can send an email to me at david@freshbakedizzy.com, or you can DM me on Twitter, or just add us, First Baked Dizzy, that's fresh with no E. And then you can also ask us questions in the comments below. I heard a rumor that if you ask Fresh Baked a question in the comments within the first 30 minutes the video is published, you're going to get an answer from Fresh Baked. So let's see what happens, guys. Ask a question in 30 minutes. See if you get an answer. Otherwise, follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FirstBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. I love you very much. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Stay tuned to the end of this video for a little bit of history about the secret masts and sails hidden in New Orleans Square. And Fresh Baked. Our next Disneyland secret from Fresh Baked occurs right here in New Orleans Square. New Orleans is one of the largest ports in the United States, and it was therefore reasonable that, they'd want to incorporate some kind of boating theme into the area. But as it turns out, it's kind of a small area. It's not very big, and there's neighboring lands that sort of inhibit the ability to put a boat.
just look around you. Where are you going to put a boat around here? You've got Adventureland and Critter Country on either side, and there's just not a lot of room for that. The Rivers of America help the solution a little bit, but not quite as much as you'd think. I mean, it's nice that you've got some waterfront there, but really the view that you're getting when you look upon the Rivers of America is not one of New Orleans Square, but more of an aged look, a frontierish look at that area as opposed to a more contemporary New Orleans Square. Really the best way to feel a part of New Orleans or feel like you're immersed into the theming, into the city, is to either be right in it, like this, or if you want to get a larger view of the land, you can stand out in front of it and see the whole picture. And it's from here we're going to see our next secret of Disneyland. Right over the top of Pirates of the Caribbean, on top of the buildings in the background there, in New Orleans Square, you'll see a ship, Mast and Sails. Frozen in time.
Yeah.
You guys want to see where that is for real? Alright, I'm going to show you a Google Map version of the Mast and Sails on top of the New Orleans Square buildings. If you don't want, the magic spoiled for you, just click right here and you can skip ahead a few seconds. But here's a shot overhead. I mean, it's kind of indiscreet, right? It's just sitting there on top along with all the air conditioning vents and things like that. Don't worry if you didn't click that. Magic still works plenty fine if you know it's there. In fact, it's kind of hard to notice on a casual basis. I mean, even preparing for this Disneyland secret video, I had to kind of look for it. So there's not a lot known about the history of that mast or why it's there or how it came to be. There's nothing really formally published in any kind of Disney book or on their website or anything like that. From what I understand, the story goes something like this. There was an artist named Herb Ryman who worked for Disney. He did a lot of concept art for the parks, for development of the attractions. One of Herb's assignments was to do some concept work, and they asked him to paint a couple scenes from which they could base the attraction on. In those paintings, Herb included a ship and mast behind the buildings in the back, right about there in the middle. And these were included to add to the illusion that this was a port city. Now keep in mind, this was not just supposed to be a painting of New Orleans, but an actual concept art from which to base the land on. So when they originally started building the land, the idea or the plan was to include some sort of mast and sails, but for whatever reason, those were not added originally to the park. And the story goes that when Fantasmic was created, they needed to add some additional lighting that had to originate from the tops of those buildings in New Orleans Square. And they felt like they needed to obscure those lights, and they asked one of the Disney Imagineers to come up with a scheme to do that, to hide or mask the inclusion of these lights that were going to be put up on the top of those buildings. And of course, the Disney Imagineer who was assigned to this task was a fan of Herb Ryman and his original paintings and was aware of the mast and sails that he included on there. And he immediately thought, well, what a brilliant idea. I'm going to put a mast and sails on top of those buildings to hide those lights. So what do you guys think? Cool, right? Don't forget, if you want to see this secret, you got to come to a very specific spot right here in New Orleans Square, right here in front of Pirates of the Caribbean.